section of teaching speaking this week focuses on socio-cultural competence. And it focuses on socio-cultural competence in contrast to strategic competence. So strategic competence is knowing your strengths and your weaknesses. And using your strengths to overcome your weaknesses in language. This is strategic competence. Sociocultural competence is something completely different. Sociocultural competence is this idea of being polite. Having sociocultural competence means that you know how to behave and you know how to be polite. What we'll find out is that being polite looks different depending on a few factors. The first factor that affects politeness is society. Whichever society you're in will have cultural norms that influence how polite people should behave in certain situations. So these cultural norms made by society will affect what politeness looks like. An example of this would be crossing borders. Something that is expected to be polite here, which would be maybe giving a thumbs up or an okay sign, might not be considered polite in a different society. The next factor that influences what politeness looks like is the situation you're in. Depending on the formality of your situation, the way politeness looks will be different. In an informal situation, politeness may be more relaxed. It might not be polite to be uptight, sitting straight, and speaking in academic language. But when you're in a formal situation, that's what politeness might look like. Another factor that influences what politeness looks like is relationship. The relationship you have with the person you are speaking to is going to change what your politeness looks like. The politeness that I show my mother looks very different than the politeness I would show a close friend or a peer. The choices that speakers make are influenced by who the listener is. And this is how the relationship affects politeness. And the fourth factor that influences what politeness looks like is your script. Every speech act, and as a people, we participate in conversations. We follow a script. This means we follow a selection of words, phrases, and ways to perform speech acts and engage in conversation. How we make these choices and how we create this script depends on the relationship we have with our listeners, the situation we're in, and the society we're in. And all of this affects the script that we use in order to be polite. All of this together is social-cultural competence. It's important as teachers to teach what social competence is to our students. We could have someone very fluent in English but has only been in the academic setting, only knows the situation of being an educator, and only has that relationship of teaching others. So when you put this person in a different social-cultural competence situation, where they're talking to a close friend, they're going to have the wrong script. And they're not going to be coming off as particularly polite to a close friend because they will be using the wrong script from the wrong context. A good way to teach what social competence is would be to expose your students to authentic language. Expose them to TV shows or interviews, and show them the different types of politeness that we have. And talking about politeness with our students, making sure they understand the importance and they can analyze the different factors that affect and create different scripts.